So time now for Bottom Line. We take a look at sectors and companies worth watching this morning. Today, our focus is on the pandemic and all the companies and how they're going to restructure all across industries. And joining me now is a man who can help us break it all down, Simon Freakley, AlixPartners CEO. AlixPartners is a global consulting firm serving Fortune 500 companies with an expertise in restructuring. Simon, just broad strokes. Who's calling you right now? What's their question? What are you telling them?
Alex, thanks so much for having me on your program. Well, of course, I'm speaking to CEOs of our clients every day. And 6 weeks ago, of course, the first concern was, did they have the balance sheets? Did they have the cash resources to deal with this extraordinary crisis? And so the very early questions and efforts went into making sure that people had the right liquidity. Even those that were cash rich were drawing down on their credit facilities just in case they needed them. What's that now? That is now morphed into understanding how to adapt to this new reality by acting fast, making sure that there's communication with customers, obviously, but also critically employees and suppliers to keep those constituencies in place as they move through the crisis. And now, of course, to focus on not only how they exist through the crisis, but what the other side looks like. What does new normal look like, and how do they prepare themselves for that?
So what do you tell them?
Well, we say three things, really. First of all, act fast. This is no time for dawdling. So make sure that very quickly the critical elements are in place. And so, Alex, you'd be surprised how many large companies don't have cash flow forecasts, because liquidity, certainly in recent memory, has never been an issue for them. So first of all, they have to make sure they do have the landing strip of liquidity to do what they need to do. Secondly, of course, things like looking at supply chain. If you think about what Kimberly-Clark has done, for instance, to reconfigure its supply chain to really rise to the need for more paper towel, people are having to act fast to put the practical and pragmatic steps in place to deal through the crisis. And then we say to people, protect yourself on the downside, make sure that you're taking prudent measures to protect your companies, but also look for the opportunities, because there are significant opportunities here. And if you're a large corporate that consolidates in your sector, you may find that there are companies that come into play that can be bought, and certainly at prices that couldn't have been imagined even 3 months ago. Same for private equity, of course. So it's saying adapt, but also think ahead, because what we know about crises is this. First of all, they're all different, but also, of course, they all do end. And so people have to also focus on the other side of this, not just how to cope during it.
For those that aren't yet able to buy, but they're still in the restructuring money phase, would you be advising them to take government loans that are coming out or not? What's the word on the street on that?
Well, I think it depends. Of course, first of all, the most important thing is to understand what's available, and that isn't entirely straightforward. So first of all, understand the opportunities, and then, of course, make sure that in any set of reasonable outcomes, you will have the opportunity to be able to repay them. I think for most companies, it is a good idea to look at those loans and to think about taking them. And of course, certainly, if a company is looking at a very disrupted environment at the moment and potentially the threat of failure, then taking a loan now is probably the most opportune thing to do. And then, of course, you can work with government and other stakeholders later to work out how to schedule repayments. So I think, first of all, understanding what's available and being proactive, but being practical, Alex.
So if you're looking at practicality and you were either in talks to sell a part of your company, or you want to now, are these deals still going through? Is anyone yet buying? And I want to include PE in that, because supposedly lots of private equity and hedge funds are raising tons of money to buy distressed credit, and I'm wondering if you're seeing any of that start to play out yet.
So interestingly enough, I don't think you're seeing a lot of deals today, but there's certainly a lot of analysis going on by PE and other investors as to where the best opportunities lie. And of course, PE still has a significant amount of dry powder. that will need to be put to work. So I think that certainly we have many clients that are private equity houses are very actively looking at how they can do strategic add-ons to their existing portfolio companies, or indeed to do new investments, and where the best opportunity consistent with their investment strategy lies. So yes, I think PE and other investors are being very proactive about seeing where the opportunities will be. So whilst today you're not seeing a lot of deals, I think in the next 2 or 3 months that will start to happen. We'll start to see those deals.
So this leaves the big elephant in the room, and that's retailers. How are you advising retailers about how they're supposed to survive, considering that most stores are closed?
Right. It's a great question, Alex, and of course the COVID crisis has had a profound impact on the retail sector. But let's not forget that even before we even heard of the word COVID, the retail sector was going through profound disruption. I mean, it's so interesting. We've done this deep analysis over the last 12 months as to disruption in sectors, and retail has been one of the most profoundly disruptive sectors by things like changes in customer behavior, by the fact that people are very much organizing their world around themselves with the ability through social media to curate their own environment in terms of their needs based on their own value systems. So the retail sector was in really significant disruption even before COVID came along. And then, of course, the mother of all disruption arrives with the coronavirus, and footfall in the traditional stores has ground to a complete halt. And so those retailers that have got significant and developed online operations, of course, have managed to pivot quickly into really leaning in to their online strategy. Those without an online strategy, take Primark, for instance, which actually very deliberately didn't have an online strategy because they felt they could offer even better prices by not going that route, have ground to a complete standstill. And so I think what we'll see with retail is that it will re-emerge, but there will be winners and losers. And of course, you're already seeing in the news a number of household names continuously planning for bankruptcy because they've run out of road. But the real opportunity, Alex, for retail is in this situation, those with significant online operations, is the extraordinarily rich data that they're collecting from their customers as they do home delivery. Because, of course, the data and the buying preference of customers is absolutely golden in a retail environment.
Fascinating. Simon, it was such a pleasure to speak with you. I hope you come back because this is going to evolve quite quickly, I feel, in the next 18 months. Simon Freakley, AlixPartners CEO, thank you very much.